lot of people, my generation included and younger, being priced out of being able to purchase a home. Lots of people right now are looking to rent. The amount of apartment complexes that are here has grown tremendously to be able to keep up with that demand.
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larsen. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. Welcome to this episode of the Next Level Income Show. I'm excited to have our new Director of Investor Relations, Collin Campbell, here with me. And today we're going to be diving into the annual Uhaul survey, which I write about every year. I love to do updates on this and really talk about how we use it to identify target markets from a geographic perspective. And today we're actually going to dive deeply into Texas because, Collin, you live down there in one of the top markets, actually the top market according to Uhaul for 2025 in Dallas, Texas.
That's right, I sure do. Well, hey everyone, it's so great to finally get to introduce myself. And so, like Chris said, my name's Collin Campbell. I just joined the team here at Next Level, hailing from Dallas, Texas. Live just north of Dallas there, and it's a great city, great place to live in, and just love living here. So thanks for having me, Chris.
Absolutely. Collin, share a little bit about your background with the audience because you've got terrific background in the real estate space. You're raising a young family as
Yeah.
well. And we're very grateful to have you on the team here. You're off to a terrific start. And I'd love, especially for our investors, to get to know a little bit about you personally.
Oh man, I would love to do that. So yeah, as you mentioned, my pride and joy, most importantly, is my family. And so I've been married to my wonderful wife, Laura, for 8 years. We have three beautiful kids. We have our oldest, Levi. We have a middle son, Isaac. And then our youngest daughter, she's 4 months old, Lydia. Uh,
Amazing.
so she just moved to her own room last night, actually. So she is
Big
sleeping in her
step.
own bed. I know,
Yeah.
super excited for that step. We get to reclaim a little bit of our space again, which is nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, professionally speaking, I've been in real estate since 2019. I actually started on the property management side. So I worked for a prop tech company called Simplify for a couple of years, reimagining what remote property management could look like. And so worked on that team for a couple of years. And then moved over to DLP Capital, where I served for a few years on the investor relations team there, helping raise capital from high net worth individuals, helping meet their financial goals, and just have been super excited to be able to get to serve investors since that time. And yeah, excited to join along you side with you, Chris, and serve our investors that we have here. You've built up an incredible ecosystem of financial tools and wisdom and deal flow for our investors. And so just incredibly excited to continue serving our investors alongside you.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And you're making a ton of resources free this year
Yeah.
in 2026. If you want to schedule a free strategy session and learn how to get access to our free course, also check out chrislarsen.ai. That is my clone. It's been trained with over 5 million words, all our content. My son and I were actually having a conversation with it the other day. You can have a phone call with chrislarsen.ai. You can also just chat in there 24/7. So it's a terrific resource to get things done. But yeah, if you want to schedule a strategy session with us and learn about our education resources or some of the investment options that we're going to be talking about later on the podcast today, make sure you click on the link below and you can coordinate a call with us here. But Collin, let's dive in here. So I've always loved the U-Haul annual survey, and you can really go and I go back through my notes every year and I look at the states that move up and down, and some of the stuff we're going to talk about. It's people are going to shake their heads and say, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. People are moving from high tax, kind of lower quality of life states like the Northeast. The big one we've seen over the last 5 years is the net migration out of California, which
Yeah.
is been a really big deal. Now they're talking about doing a wealth tax, and they got billionaires moving out of California. Um,
Yeah.
we've seen a lot of these same trends continue, and the states that are
Mhm.
benefiting are those that are on the other end of the spectrum. They're pro-business, they're low tax, they have lower cost of living, they have better weather for the Southeast. So let's take a look here. So 2025, the U-Haul growth states. Number one, as we were talking about, is Texas, up from the second spot last year. Texas is really benefiting from, the majority of the net immigration is coming from California. Are you seeing that with boots on the ground there, Colin?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. So we went to the license bureau last year to get our
Yeah.
driver's license. We moved here probably about 2 years ago, and you just overhear the conversations happening in
Yeah.
the license bureau of like, oh yeah, I moved from California. I moved from California. I mean, literally every other person you talk
Yeah.
to is from California here.
Yeah.
I will tell you, everybody who you talk to is so happy that they have moved out of California. And again, we won't go into all the reasons for that, but they're so happy to be in Texas. They just feel lighter being in Texas. They feel better about the family situation that they get to be in, raising their kids there. And so it is absolutely true about every other person you talk to is from California here.
Yeah. No, it's wild. And yeah, we've seen the growth, which is interesting, not only continue, but actually accelerate here. You've got Elon Musk that's
Right.
building there. We got NVIDIA building a new plant we're going to talk about in Houston with one of our upcoming acquisitions. We'll dive into that a little later. Florida, always a stalwart on these lists, up from number 4 to number 2 this year.
Mhm.
And, Florida, it's been a lot of people moving from the Northeast to Florida. I actually have talked to my wife's from Montreal originally. I've talked to a lot of people from Canada
Yeah.
actually moving to Florida to get out of some of the regulation and some of the craziness that they saw in COVID. Just saw that some of the stuff that they did there during COVID with the trucker convoy was deemed illegal with some of the bank regulations they put in. So yeah, it's interesting to see this trend continue, but really places like Miami, Palm Beach, it's
Mm.
becoming a real capital center. You have crypto there, and you have a lot of Wall Street companies moving there as well.
Well, and I think the comment I was going to make on that was I think a lot of people have been digging on Florida,
Yeah,
of like, especially in the real estate space, you see all these people who are logging on the Southeast of like, it's overbuilt. There's so much that's happening there. And I'm like, you look at the data and the net migration still supports that there's a lot of population growth happening in Florida.
yeah,
And so I think, you can talk about the whole demand supply imbalance thing that's happening for
yep,
years, but really the data supports that there's a lot of people still moving to Florida. There's a lot of people still moving. I'm sure we'll get into the Carolinas as
yeah,
well, getting in the
absolutely,
top
yeah.
fives. And so there's so much momentum moving into those places. I just don't think you can ignore that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's got terrific weather. Again, it's got no income tax. Now, the governor Ron DeSantis is talking about potentially eliminating the property tax there to encourage more migration into the state. They did a
Mhm.
big campaign with the new mayor in New York City to offer police officers and law enforcement officers big bonuses to come to
Wow.
Florida to do that. So it's interesting, in this. Ongoing experiment that we have in the United States of America, that we can
Yeah.
have different states have different regulations, different culturally. I know people that don't like Florida from a cultural perspective. I'm not I don't love South Florida from a cultural perspective, just kind of with how it is down there. I love Asheville, North Carolina here, with a little bit of slower pace of life.
Yeah.
That's a good segue because North Carolina, 3 last year, still number 3 this year.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to lump that in because South Carolina was number 1 last year. It's down to number 5. But if you take the Carolinas together, they are
Mhm.
still, solidly top 5 every year. And North Carolina was named the top state last year in terms of being business friendly. So I can tell you, we moved here. I can't believe I'm saying this, 18 years ago, nearly,
Wow.
from the DC area, and
Yeah.
we love the fact that it was more affordable. Asheville, while it's got four seasons, it's got more of a mild climate. It's just been a wonderful place to raise the family.
Yes.
But we got a ton of friends in Charlotte where my boys play lacrosse. Raleigh, I've got had friends that have moved to the Raleigh and the Research Triangle. You also have like Wilmington, which has been a big growth market as well. Then you have South Carolina, which it's got Greenville, it's got Charleston, it's got some
Mhm.
terrific cities. And I think if I was starting a family, I'd probably pick Greenville today over Asheville, just because it's got more career opportunities. Asheville's awesome, from a tourist perspective, but just not quite the industry that you see in Greenville, for instance.
Yeah, yeah. And the other factor that I'm sure you can attest to as well is North Carolina and is one of those rare states where you can go to both the beach and you can go to the mountains, you
Yeah,
know? And
absolutely.
so you have the opportunity to go surfing and skiing in the same day if you want to, right?
Yeah,
And that's a huge attractive point for a lot of people who are
it is.
outdoorsy. They love to be
Yeah.
able to get outside. Like you said, the weather there is very, very temperate, so you're able to kind of get outside around. All of those things make it very attractive for people to move to.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we were just actually skiing on Martin Luther King Jr. Day here, me and my younger son, and I was sitting on the lift with a couple from Charlotte, and they said the same thing. They go, "We love Charlotte because we can get up to the mountains and we can get down to the beach." And they're like, "Well, actually, I don't go to the beach much anymore. We might move to the mountains." But yeah, it really does give you the best of both worlds
Yeah,
in terms of that. And slotting in between North Carolina and Tennessee in the top. I'm sorry, in between North Carolina and South Carolina in the top five is Tennessee, which is up
yeah.
one spot. Tennessee has also seen a big in migration. You've got some terrific cities. You've got Nashville, which is the biggest, most well-known city, but you also have Chattanooga. You've got Knoxville, which has really grown. It's just across the border from us, and we've got mobile home parks. We have apartments in Tennessee that have been solid performers for us in our portfolio. And again, Tennessee, no tax. So what's interesting is three of the top five states in the Uhaul Mover Survey from 2025 have no state income tax.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting to see what a draw that is, especially as population ages. We're going to see, retirees that love to move to these areas that they can maximize their after-tax dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. You love the opportunity to be able to build up that nest egg through your 401k. But the 401k, obviously, the sidekick of that is you do have to pay taxes on the other side of it, right?
Yeah,
And so being able to maximize that by being in a state like that where you can not have to worry about paying as much in the tax bill on the state side
yeah,
makes a huge difference for some of those folks. And so Tennessee is one of those places that I love. I just had a cousin who moved there for a job to be able to start her residency. She's training
yeah,
to be a doctor right now, and they have loved moving there and have found a lot of success in that growing, bustling metro area there.
yeah,
So it's a beautiful area, and I'm sure we'll touch on this as well. But like you said, I think. And this is something they touch on in the U-Haul survey as well, is that in these net migration trends that we're seeing there, again, not to make this a political conversation, but you are seeing the transfer from blue states to red states.
you are
Um,
absolutely.
you know,
Yeah,
and so it is showing that that is a continuing trend that they're tracking over the years. U-Haul mentions it,
hmm
that they have seen that as a growing trend over the last 5 years. And I think that that's only going to continue. I do think it will be interesting because what you're seeing happening in places like Dallas, particularly, is that it's just becoming increasingly purple. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And so
yeah,
as you have that net migration, you're just having increasing diversification of thought, you're having
yeah,
increasing diversification of culture. Austin is a great testament to that as well within Texas. And so it'll be very interesting to track how those trends continue to change cultures and political dynamics over the years. So,
Yeah, that's a great point. And I actually we love living in a city like Asheville, which is more progressive, it's more liberal, but it's in a red state, which
mhm,
at a state level, they always have solid budgets, they're on solid financial footing, and you don't get too crazy one way or the other. So I think it is nice to be in a balance, But to your point, what we've seen, and this is just looking at the data, the five bottom states, California, Illinois, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, then you got Maryland after that, where I grew up. These are states that, are continuing to raise taxes. They've had, like, I read a lot about energy, and Maryland is the epicenter of really an energy crisis in the country. We've got a big storm coming in this weekend. And the problem is they've cut down on onlining new power plants. And then you
mhm,
have these AI data centers in a lot of these areas that are sucking up power. So they've seen energy bills in Maryland go up two, three, 4x. I just saw energy bills $1,200 was what the person posted on social media here this morning, which is, again, you have these costs that are accelerating because of some of the policies that are put in place. If you're a
yeah,
business owner, you're wealthy, and you have a state like California that you're paying 14% state tax, and then they're potentially throwing a wealth tax on top of that. You just have to consider, hey, if you're mobile, maybe you move. We've seen, I don't want to get too deep into this, but I've had conversations with a lot of parents that prefer, to have their children in states that are more conservative, just with some of the things that are happening as well. So, these migration studies, like we're talking about here today, also correlate with that as well. So
yeah,
let's dive into the top metros here, Colin. If
hmm,
we look at the top cities in the study, and I'm going to read off the top 10, and we're gonna talk about really the top three. So the top 10 here: Dallas, Texas, number one; Houston, number two; Austin, Charlotte, number four; Phoenix, Arizona, number five; Nashville, number six; Charleston, South Carolina, number seven; Raleigh, number eight; Atlanta, number nine; and then we got another Brownsville, McAllen, Texas, in slotting in at number 10. So out of the top five, three are in Texas. Out of the top 10, four are in Texas. And actually, on this list, we have properties in one, two, three, four, five, six, seven out of the top 10. And what we look at from an investor strategy perspective or an investment thesis, and I'm going to send out an email this weekend as well. So if you're listening, make sure you're on our podcast list. You can go to nextlevelincome.com and subscribe to our podcast, and you'll get our weekly newsletter as well. But I talk about how I identified North Carolina and Asheville as a great area 20 years ago to move to. And really, we follow a very simple strategy. We look at where people are moving. We look at where businesses are moving and business growth. We also look at the diversity of business. You want nice, healthy economic base. Also, from a personal perspective, we like to look at the quality of life index that we overlay with
yeah,
these. And look, if you follow the trends of where people are moving over time, and you make sure you're in a state that is pro landlord, pro business, you're swimming with the tide. You're swimming with the stream versus swimming upstream. And Colin, if you're on our investor club, then you've seen that we have new acquisition in Houston, Texas, which is up big
yeah.
from number nine to number two this year. Colin, I'd love for you to dive a little bit deeper into some of what you're seeing in Texas and some of the reasons why there's such a large number of cities in this list that we just talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's clear, like I said, so many people in my generation. So, I'm a millennial. I kind of scraped into the millennial generation, and they're in prime child rearing stage,
Yeah,
right? And once you get to that stage where you're having kids, your number one priority becomes your kids. And so
absolutely.
you,
Yeah.
so you have to think about, how am I setting up life to be
Hmm.
successful for them? Texas has some of the highest rated schools, whether you're looking at private or public schools. They have some of the highest rated schools in the country. So people are obviously attracted to the school systems within Texas. Um, if you cared all about sports, which a lot of
Yeah.
parents in Texas care about sports, I live
Yeah.
5 minutes from McKinney ISD's multi-million-dollar football stadium for a high
Wow.
school,
Wow.
which
Yeah.
is crazy to say, but
Yeah.
they invest a lot of money in their public
Yeah.
school system. That's all
Yeah.
to say, in the development of schools, athletes, and students. So people are obviously looking at that. I can tell you from a young parent perspective as well. Um, my kids have the choice of 20 different parks within a
Wow.
15-minute radius.
Wow.
Um, and the ability to be able to decide, hey, which park are we going to go to today to be able to play together at? Makes a huge difference whenever
Yeah.
you're raising young kids and being able to get them outside, have access to those type of things. And then, as you mentioned as well, the pro business atmosphere as well is felt here. It's palpable. So I live, like I said, in North Dallas, which I live in a suburb called McKinney, which is right next to another suburb called Frisco.
Yep. Yeah. I know
Frisco is
Frisco
one of
well. Yeah.
the uh, most growing business districts in North Dallas right now.
Wow. Yeah.
And so it's crazy to say that no longer are people saying, "Oh, we just want to go build a business in Dallas." It's like we're going to build our business in North Dallas. We're going to go in
Yeah.
all of these different metros around.
Yeah.
Um, because we know that there's tons of wealth concentrated here, there's tons of business concentrated here, and we want to swim, like you said, with that tide that's going
Yeah.
on. So
Yeah.
that's how I've probably experienced all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, geez, over 1,500 Texans a day, new Texans a day. Over the past year, just incredible growth. One of the things, for our longtime listeners here, a lot of people know that since 2019, I've been following the senior housing industry, and that's we've got a partnership here that we're going to be launching to our audience. So if you want to get access to our new multifamily deal in Houston, if you want to get access to our future offerings in senior housing, click on the invest link at nextlevelincome.com and you can coordinate a call with Colin or myself. We'll walk you through that. But what we're seeing is, back in 2010, only about 10% of Texas was over 65. Now we're seeing over 100 counties with where 20% of the population is going to be 65 and older. And this is a trend that we're going to see across the country as, the baby boomers this year, Colin, start turning 80. And,
Mhm.
baby boomers have been turning 65 at 10,000 a day. Those 10,000 a day are going to start turning 80 in 2026. And one of the unfortunate realities is we're only building about 25% of the capacity in senior housing. So again, you can look at these demographic trends and not just identify great geographic areas, but you can identify great areas in the real estate market. I do want to transition here and talk about some of the challenges that we're facing. So with all this movement, I know one of the big things that we've seen, and this isn't just limited to Texas or these higher states, but affordable housing has been a real issue. It's been an issue here in Asheville. When building costs have gone up and interest rates have gone up, it just costs more to build. And when you're spending $350,000 per unit to build, it's really
Mhm.
hard to bring those rents down to an affordable level. I know you're in the housing market. Looking for a new house for you and your
Yeah.
growing family. What are you seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to give you an idea, in my metro where we're looking, right now my wife and I we're looking for a 3 or 4 bedroom house,
Yeah,
around 2,000 square feet, nothing crazy, but just
yeah,
something to grow our family in.
yeah,
Those houses right now are averaging around $400,000 to be able to purchase one of those houses.
yeah,
And you look back about 5 years ago at
yeah.
where those prices were trading, they were probably around closer to $250,000
Yes,
for those houses.
yeah,
So when we're looking through those Zillow listings, we're a little bit disheartened. I'll tell you that much when we're looking at
yeah,
some of those prices,
yeah,
because it's hard to see that amount of difference as
Yeah.
in terms of just 5 or 6 years of difference
Yeah.
in terms of the market. And so you're definitely seeing in this market a lot of people, my generation included and younger, being priced out of being able to purchase a home.
Yeah.
And so lots of people right now are looking to rent. And so there are the amount of apartment complexes that are here has grown tremendously to be able to keep up with that demand.
Yeah.
And apartments are obviously the place for people to be able to, if they have, just a handful of kids, or if it's just, them or a couple people living there, an apartment complex is obviously the great place to go. And so that's why they are a huge and wide demand within this market, and they're continuing to grow. We're also seeing, I will say, single family rentals are also taking off here quite a bit. And so you're seeing a lot of mom and pop investors coming into the market to be able to
Mhm.
purchase homes, to be
Yeah.
able to renovate them and turn them into rental homes. That is in wide demand within Texas as well right now.
Yeah, you made some really good points there. Today, the gap between renting and owning in terms of cost is nearly as high as it's ever been. It's about a
Yeah,
30% difference to own versus rent. It's 30% cheaper to go
yeah,
out and rent. It's the higher the prices have been. I know you know this. You have to have a bigger down payment. So not only
that's
do you have
right.
to have a bigger down payment, but you have to have more income to qualify, and you have to be able to afford that 30% higher payment. You also brought up a great point in terms. I'm sorry, let me go ahead.
Well, no, the other thing I was going to point out, you didn't also include this, is when you're purchasing a home, you're also responsible for property taxes.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
while Texas is really good at not having a state income tax, their property taxes are a lot higher. And
Yeah.
so that is also something you have to take into account whenever you're purchasing a home, is like property taxes are going to be an additional thing you have on top of your mortgage
Yeah.
payment to begin. So
Yeah.
that was just something I was going to add in there.
Oh yeah, no, you're exactly right, and I can tell you, we bought a house when we moved here in Asheville in 2009. Great time to buy, and I mean, we made quite a bit of money when we sold the house. But when I looked at all of our expenses along the way and the maintenance and improvements, our rate of return wasn't that great. I
Yeah.
would have done better just investing that money, frankly. So, buying a house is definitely an emotional purchase. It's certainly a great choice for most families that are out there. But what we're trying to do with our investment strategies, we're trying to take advantage of these trends.
Yeah.
One of the trends, is apartments. The largest growing demographic over the last 10 years has been the 55 plus demographic, where people have downsized. So, when you see these migration trends, a lot of these individuals are baby boomers that are selling their homes in California, and they're moving to a place and they're like, you know what, I want to travel, I want to be near my kids, but I don't want to have maintenance.
Yep.
And they get to live in an apartment and do that. The other thing that our debt fund takes advantage of is one of the things that you just brought up, Colin, which is we work with investors that are buying homes. These are typically starter homes in the $200,000 to $400,000 range, and they're flipping them. So they're improving
Yep.
them over the course of 3 6 months. So what we do with our debt fund is we loan those investors money for 6 to 9 months, and we pay our investors in our debt fund a really nice return for being able to do that, but not having to manage the loans. And you get diversification. I used to do hard money loans, like one at a time, and those are
Mm.
great, but you got a lot of downtime and you got a lot of risk if that borrower defaults or there's an issue with the build or delay, and those sorts of things. So if you want to learn more about that, again, go to Next Level Income, click on the invest link, and watch out for our newsletter this weekend, where I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the same strategy that I've used to identify some of the top markets here. And Colin, I'll let you wrap up and share with our listeners how they can get a hold of you if they want to schedule a call, learn a little bit more, get access to our free courses, copy of our book. And also, one of the things, learn how to cut your tax bill down, no matter if you're a W-2 employee or a business employee. We've got some terrific resources. And the same thing I use to cut my taxes from 30% to 17%.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, thanks for Chris me on and for having this conversation. If you want to get in touch with me, we'll link my calendar link below so you can schedule some time with me. Would love to walk through all the different opportunities that we've got coming up. Like Chris mentioned, our debt fund always available with fix and flip loans, as well as Copper Springs that is in Houston apartment complex that we're purchasing. We're very excited about there as well. So please schedule some time with me there. You can also reach out to me directly at ccampbell@nextlevelincome.com and happy to be able to schedule some time with you there. So thanks again for having some time. Looking really forward to helping you with your tax bills, with your investing goals, helping you maximize your wealth and set you up for success. So please reach out to me and we'll set up some time.
Awesome. Collin, great to have you here today.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.